This is Seper. It's one of the first TV series written, filmed, and produced entirely in Afghanistan. The purpose of the series is to present a positive face of the Afghan National Police, change public perceptions, and reframe the role of the police in Afghanistan. Awaz Productions is the company behind this creation. In order to produce the series, it had to overcome a serious lack of capacity, significant production challenges, and several near disasters. But after years of effort, they have created a show that may not only help build Afghanistan's entertainment industry, but also change the nature of the Afghan conflict and the role of NATO troops in the country. Seper is the story of Humayun, one honest man in Afghanistan's notoriously corrupt police forces.
سرسارمن بختیار شهادت می‌رسد. ما با داشتن اسناد کامل کشفی و استخباراتی از این موضوع اطلاع داشتیم.
The 26 episodes of the series follow his efforts to combat crime and the chronic fraudulence of the Afghan National Police.
قسمی که در تلفن بر گفته بودم ما که باشم هیچ تشویش ندارم.
The series begins when Humayun, a Kabul police officer, runs afoul of wealthy power brokers in the capital and is banished to a remote, ramshackle police district. At this outpost, he takes on the police department's leaders and, over the course of the series, rids the station of sleaze, makes the force professional, and wins the respect of the local community.
یک نقش بسیار عالی است دیگه. خودم چون علاقمندی با یک نقش افسر پلیس داشتم و دارم، حال فعلا هم با علاقمندی کار میکنم در این سریال.
Entertainment is a relatively new industry in Afghanistan. The country had no television 10 years ago when the Taliban were in power. But the medium has proliferated since then. Countless TV shows, almost all of them produced abroad, now beam out from Kabul's so-called TV Hill. Seper is among the first of these shows to be produced entirely in Afghanistan. The response so far has been enthusiastic.
دغه سریال چې اوس موږ ولید د سفر په نوم یادېږي ډېر ښه سریال و د پولیسو واقعي ډېر ښه رول ادا کړی.
سریال‌های خارجی است این سریال‌ها از زنانات خودشان پیداست این به ما کدام اثرات را نداره. سریال افغانی سریالی است که ما هم زبان ماست هم کلام ماست هم کردار ماست ما از این برداشت خوب میتونیم بکنیم. یک مکتبی است که یک سریال یک کتابی است که ما از او بی سواد و با سواد از استفاده کرده میتونیم.
The cast, crew, and concept are all Afghan, but the funding for the series came from the European Union and the Canadian government. Two donors working to create Afghan solutions for Afghan problems.
I think it's also important to acknowledge that the Afghans themselves will speak much better with Afghans than the Europeans or Americans or anyone else. So we have to trust and support the Afghans, how to convey and what to convey to their own brothers and sisters.
And to project Afghan voices, they chose to invest in Afghanistan's burgeoning media industry.
The Afghan media is very vibrant, and it's a great way to reach the Afghan audience.
One of the brains behind the series is Christian Marie, an advisor at Awaz.
I'm from France, and once I remember talking with cops in France, and they told me, you can't imagine the number of people that we arrest who tell us basically, I only speak in presence of my lawyer, which is something which doesn't exist in French law. It only exists in American law. And because all these people are watching constantly American TV serials, police serials. This is very, very funny how much American culture has influenced our people. If this can be so much influential, why not try to use it positively for Afghanistan?
بنان سریالا خدمتشان میست که در بیداری مهارت‌های مردم استعدادایی که مردم داره در جهت امنیت بیداری ازی که اونا برن به طرف همکاری با پلیس که به نفع خودشان است. در این رابطه نقش سریال بسیار زیاد موثر است.
In the summer of 2009, the Awaz team began preparations to produce the new series. The producers were determined to use an all-Afghan cast and crew. An essential goal of the project was to strengthen the gains of the Afghan media industry.
All the people that you've seen in the series are basically people who had never seen a camera before. It would have been much easier for us to recruit foreigners, Iranian, Indians, Americans, French, and tell them, okay, we have this project to do it. The goal for us is to try to build something sustainable in Afghanistan. The idea for us is that we want to pull out. We don't want to stay here.
And to achieve those goals, Awaz had many challenges to overcome. The first was to find funding for the project.
First of all, we shot a pilot, and after with this pilot, I went to see the different donors. And I wanted first to convince these technical people, and after that, if I had the backing of these people, I would eventually go to the diplomats and to the donors. I had people in front of me who were not professionals of the media, and who I would even say didn't even know exactly to what extent they could use the media. And that was a real hard part for me to convince them that our project could have an impact on the reform of the security forces.
Olivier Niola, then the Secretary General of the International Police Coordination Body, was an active supporter of the project. He advocated for the series at a meeting of ambassadors involved in police reform efforts.
I have to say the first reaction was one of complete surprise. Can you imagine a room full of 30 diplomats and we show them a pilot project of a kind of soap opera or a docudrama about policemen? The first reaction was one of complete surprise.
It took some work, but Niola managed to convince the European Union and the Canadian government to fund the series as part of their wide-ranging police training efforts.
The media has to be an important part of what we're doing to change attitudes in Afghanistan to match the training that we're doing with the police.
I think the Afghan people are not used to the role of the police on the streets of the villages and the cities. The TV series provide not necessarily always a pleasant picture about the police actions, but it also shows that institution of the police, civilian police in particular, has a critical role for the rule of law and stability of Afghanistan.
Awaz managed to secure funding for the project, but many challenges still lay ahead. There's a lot of media in Afghanistan, but after 30 years of war, the country doesn't have much of an indigenous entertainment industry.
This is something a little new for us. We never really did that before, so we had to put together an entire crew.
Among the team, Ghulam Ismarai Rasool and Zia Bakhtiari, both video editors at Awaz News.
This is a great opportunity for me to help my country through media that I am working since a long time for the media.
زمانی که در دفتر آواز ما آمدم من حیث ادیتور آمدم اینجا کار میکردم همراهشان کارم خوب بود همین گپ باعث شد که پروژه پلیس داشتن سریال بود دمی بر من یک چانس دادن که من همراهشان همکار شدم من حیث دایرکتر و همین 26 قسمت هم ما شوت کردیم نتیجه بسیار خوب گرفتیم دیگه من تشکری میکنم از دفتر آواز که یک چانس بر ما دادن.
Sonia Siddiqui and Shughla Babakarkhail, former writers and producers for Afghan radio shows.
چیزای زیاد را آموختیم یک خو اعتماد به نفس خود قایم کنیم که اعتماد به نفس خود پیدا کنیم که ما میتونیم کار پیش ببریم پیش بره بعد همه گروه ما یعنی تکیه به دیگران نکنیم چیزی که در دل آرزو داریم امور در اسکریپت خود اضافه کنیم و او را پیش ببریم تا به توقع مردم هم پوره شود توقع دل ما پوره شود از خاطر مشکلات بیشتر ما حل شده.
هدف ما از نشان دادن نقش واقعی یک پلیس افغانستان است یک پلیسی که واقعا شب و روز به این مملکت خدمت میکنه و متاسفانه مردم ما دید مثبت نسبت به پلیس ندارن و میخوایم که چهره واقعی یک پلیس واقعا خدمتگزار و مردم رو معرفی بکنه.
Writing team assembled. The next step was to teach them how to write.
Script writing for CIUL was not something that we were very familiar with. We hired some Indian people from Bollywood, script writers, professionals who came here, who trained our people. Our colleagues here knew what we were trying to do, but they didn't have the technique.
Awaz called on Asad Hussain, a filmmaker and scriptwriter from Bollywood, to teach the writing team the tricks of the trade.
They were not scriptwriters in the beginning. They were basically one of those guys were a wedding videographer. Another guy was a student. Another guy was a student of management. And initially they were quite apprehensive. They were not sure if they would be able to do it. But now they are quite sure that they can write any series.
We also hired Mr. Siddiq Barmak, who's the Afghan filmmaker who directed and produced, I think, the Osama, which has been internationally acclaimed movie. And he was working as an advisor on the shooting.
Siddiq Barmak was the primary creative advisor for the first 2 episodes of the series. Barmak and Hussain had their work cut out for them. There was no structure in place in Afghanistan to produce the show. They had to create it all from scratch.
Television or film culture in Afghanistan is so influenced by Indian television. They are not being able to inculcate their own things, inculcate their own culture. They have a very strong history of oral storytelling. You don't see that in their films, in their cinema.
Several different filmmaking models informed the production. Barmak was trained in Moscow. Hussain came from Bollywood. The primary directing team learned to make films in Iran. They didn't always get along, and finding the right creative compromises wasn't always an easy task.
I'm learning from them because they are very fresh mind. Their eyes is very fresh, and they're searching a different angle to talk about different problems. They know how to create, how to blow up from a small point, blow up big point, make them red light, and how to solve it.
Russian and Iranian film traditions were created under the weight of heavy censorship, where storytellers did not always have the luxury of candor. Bollywood, on the other hand, is a filmmaking style not known for its subtlety. The team often struggled to balance a variety of filmmaking influences in the crew.
There must be a kind of Afghan style of telling the story, like how Iranian created and their own cinema.
We should not compare ourselves with Iran, and 60% of population of Iran is educated, and they know very well what is the meaning of this symbol and art behind the scene. Ours is like 80% is uneducated, even 90%, and for us we need to see, we need to visualize things.
And to help Afghan audiences visualize the public's ideal relationship with the police, the team had to find the right tone. The message of police responsibility required a dialogue-driven intellectual drama.
تو به چی حالت خود رساندی؟ یک دفعه درباره ما فکر نکردی؟
مالیه مرا ببخش.
But the need to engage the public required something a little more exciting. The team had to find a middle ground, balancing attention-grabbing fight scenes and action sequences with thoughtful dialogue. The next creative decision, whether to feature a single, powerful protagonist or to create a team. Despite the accessibility of a straightforward good guy, bad guy format, the writers went with an ensemble cast that features not just a powerful hero, but also a range of supporting characters essential to the plot. The challenges weren't all just creative. There were logistical hurdles to overcome as well, from interruptions in filming because of the sounds of NATO planes flying overhead, to the lack of experienced special effects professionals. Their first experience with a manufactured explosion was little less than safe. The production process presented one challenge after another, but the team persevered, not just for the pride of producing one of Afghanistan's first homegrown cop shows, but also to help change the nature of the NATO engagement in Afghanistan. NATO has been struggling to stabilize Afghanistan for almost 10 years. Western voters are tiring of the war. Their leaders are looking for a quick way to stabilize the country, transfer security responsibilities to Afghan authorities, and leave. In order to secure their exit strategy, they are looking to the Afghan National Police, the force primarily responsible to ensure the safety of the Afghan people, protect them from violence, and bring some much-needed order to the country.
We really want to see the country which is governed by the rule of law, which respects the best principles of the governance. We will need to see that the country has also a civilian police.
When the army moves on and when a certain level of security has been established, it's the police who are going to maintain that security.
The police are essential, but there is much to be done before they can fulfill their responsibility to the Afghan public. According to a 2009 survey by the Asia Foundation, nearly 60% of Afghans consider the police unprofessional and poorly trained.
ما صداقت تا حالا ندیدیم. وقتی که صداقت نبینیم در بین کس چی گفته میتونیم که یا صادق است. اگر من خودم یک مشکل داشته باشم ایرم من براتون جدی میگم من حیث یک باشنده افغانستان که من هیچ وقت پیش پلیس نمیرم.
It's fair to say that at the moment the Afghan police have a very poor reputation among the people. They're considered to be thieves, they're considered to be bullies, they're considered to be violent.
If the insurgency is so popular today in Afghanistan, it's not so much because the people are supporting the Taliban, it's more because the people are not supporting the government. We had all these people coming back from all these remote and challenging provinces of Afghanistan and telling us that the police is the problem. Taliban is part of the problem, but very often the police is the problem. It became obvious that we needed to do something to try to improve the image of the police, but through them the image of the entire government.
It's not entirely clear for the population what they can expect from the police. And the same for people who would like to enroll in the police. They don't have a clear idea of really what a policeman should do, serve people.
One of the first tasks facing police reformers is to recruit officers in the numbers necessary to secure Afghanistan. Some estimates suggest that in order to support a counterinsurgency campaign, Afghanistan would need at least 12 police officers for every 1,000 civilians, more than 330,000 officers. NATO, which pays police salaries, has only authorized the deployment of 134,000 by 2011. Of the 134,000, just over 115,000 are on the streets now. Estimates suggest that 1 in 9 officers are killed, abandon their posts, or resign before their deployment ends. With the character of Humayun, Awaz hopes to help boost the police recruitment effort by showing the potential benefits of good police work and giving the national police a much-needed facelift.
Being a policeman in Afghanistan is not a very sexy job. You're poorly paid, around $100 to $150 per month. They have an enormous casualty rate. And basically people do not trust you. If not, people hate you.
Some Afghan National Police officers work in very, very tough, dangerous areas. These are police officers performing a light infantry role, which in any theatre that is not fully secure is a dangerous occupation.
So to try to encourage people to join the police, it's something key. And this is what we're trying to do through the series.
But increasing the number of recruits is only part of the effort. Afghanistan has a difficult physical, political, and economic terrain, and not all recruits are cut out for the difficult job of policing Afghanistan.
Recruiting is important, but having good policemen is of the essence, of course. Quantity is good, but it cannot work against quality.
Skilled and committed recruits are hard to find. The Kabul Police Academy draws thousands of applicants a year, but not all are qualified and not all stay.
These people who are joining the police today are between 20 and 25 years old. Most of them have never witnessed normality in Afghanistan. Afghanistan has been fighting for 20, 30 years. They basically never saw a cop. They see this guy in uniform who beats people, who yells at people, and they think this is the norm.
If you can use role models to dispel that image of the Afghan National Police, then it can only help with the overall effort.
I would hope that they would view the show, see that particular action, and recognize that this is how they're supposed to behave, and therefore it's very much almost a mentoring process in itself. By seeing good policing, you will do good policing because you'll see how you're treated if you treat people professionally. And so I think that'll be a great learning part for them.
The theory seems sound, but there still exists the threat of unintended consequences. The filmmakers are attempting to show the positive side of the Afghan National Police. How believable is such a face? And is there a danger in building public confidence in a force that may not yet be deserving of a good reputation?
People know the reality, and the people are dealing with the problem of that forces day by day. I think it will destroy the reputation of the TVs, the programs, and also the people will think it's a part of propaganda, a part of governmental propaganda. If you just show the clean face and it's not in the ground and it's not the reality of life in Afghanistan, then the people will not accept and will not trust the serials.
The writers tried to balance the reality of the Afghan National Police with the ideals they were trying to project. Their choices were not without controversy.
When we did the first screening, there was an argument between two police officers. One of them said that why you should the police corrupted, why you should the police is behaving very bad. And the other one said that, have you been to the provinces? Have you been out of Kabul? So the case that you're following is the reality, and we need to accept that this is the fact.
A lot of what's going on in Afghanistan is aspirational. It's people want to see where all this effort is going, not necessarily where it is at the moment. As long as everyone realises this is a dramatisation, I don't think this amounts to propaganda. I think this just amounts to an idealised, aspirational view of what the police could be and what they could be doing for the public.
I have to say that we should always be honest with the people of Afghanistan. The people of Afghanistan are those people who can see the police on the ground. Their tangible activities can be sensed by the people of Afghanistan. So if we are sending a message that's not complying with the truth, then they will not accept it.
نظر د نورو دغه دغه فعلا چې اوس یې ودرول او تلاشي واخیستله ډېر اخلاق او ډېر په انسانیت او موږ ته ډېره خوشحاله یو دا فعلا.
از این پلیسی که در این محل می باشه، در منطقه‌ای که می باشه، ما ازش راضی هستیم. واقعا پلیسی که آمده الحمدلله از هر نگاه اینجا آرامی آمده.
The effects of Seper on the behavior of the police and of the people will be difficult to measure, and they will likely take a significant amount of time to manifest themselves.
سریال ها هم مسائل زیادی داره که تجارب انتقال میده. یک پلیس وقتی میبینه که در جریان کشف یک قضیه این همکار پلیسش ولی در محلی بوده باشه، از چه مهارت هایی استفاده کرده و که موفق شده برای موفقیت این پلیس بیننده کمک میکنه.
But the production of the series has had more immediate benefits, the first steps in the creation of a new generation of Afghan filmmakers.
We're training people, we're building the capacities for Afghanistan, we're trying to make the whole industry sustainable. We brought all these young people in. All the people that you've seen in the series are basically people who had never seen a camera before, who had no clue of what was a movie. So we brought in these advisors, these consultants, and basically their goal was very simple. We told them, you have 1 month, you have 2 months to train people. You have this amount of time to try to transmit your knowledge, to transmit your skills.
خوشبختانه امروز قشر جوان افغانستان در همه عرصه‌ها بخصوص بخش سینما که یکی از بخش‌های مهم در جامعه می باشه تلاش‌های زیاد را می‌کنند به خاطر رشد و پیشرفت کشورشان که ما هم من حیث یک جوان که در قطار این قشر خود حساب میکنم خوشبختانه بعد از سپری کردن دوره آموزشی در بخش داستان‌نویسی توسط استاد هندی و همچنان مشوره‌های تکنیکی صدیق برمک فیلمساز مشهور افغانستان در بخش دایرکتوری و بخش‌های تکنیکی دیگر که در بخش سینما ضرورت است آموختیم و خوشحال هستم که من حیث یک جوان افغان امروز میتونم که یک فیلمساز خوب باشم.
فقط 2 میاشتې مونږ د هندوستان هیواد نه استادان راغلو چې مونږ ته په دې برخه کې زده کړه راکړه. پس له هغه هغوی لاړو مونږ خپله دا سریال چې 15 نفره کارکوونکي چې لیکونکو باندې مصروفو دا موږ لیکلی نه کوم بل څوک موږ سره نشته.
We need to prioritize things. Maybe militaries need to leave Afghanistan, and maybe more artists need to come.
They're very active, they're full of energy, they're very smart. I think they're a new citizen of this country.